The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to Film Jitsu, the podcast that wields films like deadly weapons. We are your hosts. I am Mike.
And I am Jay.
On this week's episode of Film Jitsu, Jason had to cozy up to 1984's Blame It on Rio, starring Michael Caine and a man whose name I believe is, in fact, Joseph Bologna. Directed bafflingly by Stanley Donen. We're going to talk a lot about that. We're also going to do our bottom 5 black sheep. We'll pay tribute to somebody that is beloved by the both of us before Jason will reveal what film I'll have to watch for our next episode. But before all that, let's go ahead and roll the trailer for 1984's Blame It on Rio.
What happened, happened.
Where'd you wind up? Aha! You got milk all over your whiskers, pussycat. Who was the lucky girl?
You're never too old to be crazy.
Ow!
Let me kiss it.
Kiss you out to spank you.
Oh, please, and bite me too.
Now stop that. What I needed was objective professional help.
Daddy,
That's me.
you always said we could talk about anything.
What is it? Is it a boy?
Sort of.
Sort of a boy or something sort of happened?
I slept with him.
Who is he, Jennifer?
It doesn't matter.
I can't leave it like this. I've got to know who he is.
Blame it on Rio.
Jay, I first became aware of Blame It on Rio while I was listening to an episode of another podcast, We Hate Movies, did a hilarious episode on Blame It on Rio. And they go through scene by scene, and it is gut-bustingly funny. I would recommend that you check it out if you haven't. But it was unavoidable that we would do this movie at some point because wrong-headed is a word we've used a lot. Misguided is a word that does not represent what this film actually is. 2 grown men and their teenage daughters in Rio on vacation. That all sounds innocent enough. Is it a comedy? Is it some sort of farce? Everybody's kind of a scamp. Oh, well, wouldn't that be nice? Nope. What we have instead is a full-grown Michael Caine starting an affair with his best friend's teenage daughter. We could blame it on the boogie. We could blame it on the rain, Milli Vanilli style. But instead, we're just going to go ahead and blame an affair with a 17-year-old on, well, it's Rio.
Yeah.
So tell me, Jason, can we blame this on Rio, or does somebody else have to answer for what this movie is?
I think you have to blame it on the French.
We should start there.
If you even think about just what the plot is to Blame It on Rio, you immediately think, well, this must be a French film, right? And of course, it was. Blame It on Rio is the 1984 remake of Claude Berry's 1977 French hit Un Moment de Guerrement, which is In a Wild Moment. It's a breezy but obviously ethically murky comedy about middle-aged men and very young women. Funny enough, that original was later remade again in 2015 by another French director. This time it was called One Wild Moment, directed by Jean-François Richet. And it only reinforces the idea that this particular brand of discomfort has proven remarkably durable for the French. Why did this movie exist, I think, is one of the biggest questions that you have and that everybody has for that. And I think the 1980s were a perfect storm for something like Blame It on Rio to exist. First, you had Michael Caine. He was coming off the massive success with Educating Rita, which was an acclaimed May-December romance that earned him an Oscar nomination and pretty strong box office returns. At the same time, American cinema was often and crudely exploring teen sexuality in films like Porky's, Risky Business, Reckless, Angel. The list could go on and on.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's even, believe it or not, some connective tissue behind the camera for Blame It on Rio to these films. Cinematographer Ronaldo Villalobos also shot Risky Business, which sort of suggests a certain comfort, if not enthusiasm, with glossy, eroticized youth culture. So, is it sexy? I mean, that's sort of the big question, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The movie repeatedly blunts its own transgressions by first setting much of the action on Brazilian topless beaches where nudity is framed as like cultural background noise. And it also just kind of plays the exposure for laughs, too. But yes, there are moments when you're left slack-jawed that this kind of was ever considered acceptable. And that is the inescapable issue. The movie is sold as this carefree sex romp, yet the primary object of desire, Michelle Johnson's Jennifer, was 17 years old at the time of filming. That fact alone casts a long, uncomfortable shadow over everything the film attempts, no matter how witty or self-aware it tries to be. It is, however, witty and self-aware, and it's smarter than it has any right to be. And this is where Blame It on Rio becomes genuinely confounding to me. The writing is often surprisingly sharp, and Michael Caine is downright charming. In fact, Michael Caine may very well be one of my favorite actors of all time.
Yeah.
As Matthew, he's a middle-aged man stuck in a stale marriage to Karen, played by a smart but oddly underwritten and often angry Valerie Harper. Caine leans into deadpan self-loathing. He plays Matthew as a weak, fully self-aware dolt, someone who knows he's wrong. He says he's wrong repeatedly, and yet he still keeps tripping forward anyway. That self-awareness, it does go a long way softening what should be unbearable, even if it truly never justifies it. So you've got this situation that is untenable, but you have an insanely charismatic lead that is witty and funny and likable.
So with all that being said, it seems to me like you could have salvaged this movie by just leaving the girl in a bikini, right?
I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, she's still his best friend's daughter. And I think that that's even more alarming than the nudity.
So what you're telling me then is that they do in fact cross the line.
They do, yes. Michael Caine and the daughter. So the trick here is the woman that's caught in the middle here, and that's Michelle Johnson's Jennifer character, who's written and played as both an aggressive seductress and this naive, emotionally unstable and reckless teenager. And the film repeatedly emphasizes her physical maturity with frequent nudity that pushes her character decisively toward the seductress, even as the script gestures toward her being more of a teenager.
Yeah.
And immature.
Right.
So you've got this weird push-pull thing that happens with this character, and she is full on trying to get her Uncle Matthew, as she calls him, to give in to her. And in Rio, everybody's topless, everybody's having sex, and she is good to go on the beach late at night one night, and his marriage is failing, and he gives in. Is he right? He knows he's not right. There are numerous sequences with Michael Caine breaking the fourth wall as almost like a Greek chorus. He talks directly as if in an interview all throughout the film. Almost like he's been arrested and he's being interrogated by the police. Honest to God, it almost has that vibe. Also in those sequences is Jennifer as well. She's interviewed in these segments as well. They are not given time or place, so it really is narration that sort of is constantly acting as the audience's conscience. By that I mean it's telling the audience, yes, you're absolutely right. This is completely inappropriate. We know it. We're talking directly to you about how inappropriate it is. And yet here it is and it's happening and we have to deal with it. Even Joseph Bologna's character, and it's so hard to say that guy's name with a straight face, but as Victor, Matthew's best friend and Jennifer's father, Bologna plays Victor as this freewheeling ladies' man in the middle of this vicious divorce. And he's charming, but he's a creep, but he knows exactly who he is. He's got this cool dad parenting philosophy. It's built around a pact that Jennifer will tell him when she's choosing to lose her virginity. And then that cool dad personality just collapses instantly when she admits she slept with an older man to him in a moment of crying weakness because Michael Caine keeps telling her, no, it happened once. It was a mistake. We can't do this again. This is not a relationship. No. And she just keeps hounding him until yet again they do it.
This is so morally murky. Like it's such an 80s thing where it seems like it's putting all the responsibility on a child. And it sounds to me like
I don't think so.
Michael Caine is sort of a victim here, but at the advances of a child where he lacks the ability to be a grown ass person and not sleep with a 17-year-old.
No, because he says directly to you, it's my fault. I am to blame. I have done this thing. I'm the adult here.
I guess I could accept that if this was some sort of like drama.
Correct. But
it's all played for
comedy.
laughs. And that's the part where the disconnect for me is just totally unacceptable.
Well, you're not
that's
French.
So hard to square. Well, it's true. Again, yeah. Listen, if you're out there and you're French, please help me understand because I don't understand. And the thing that confounds me, I think most of all, is I can see where you could take this exact same scenario, right? And not have him sleep with the girl, but spend this entire time in Rio sort of like, running from her advances while trying not to get busted by his best friend. I can see how you could turn this scenario into a comedy, right? Into a farce.
Okay, let's back it out back to the early 80s and talk about what you're doing. You're talking about not exploiting teenagers is what you're talking about. Okay, yeah. I want to talk a little bit about risky business. Joel, who's 17 years old, is left at home by his parents. He decides to call up a hooker who comes to his house and they have fairly explicit sex, right? Risky Business is seen as a witty, funny, great comedy classic. But when the shoe's on the other foot, it's suddenly highly problematic and a huge issue. Now, I agree that it is a huge issue because of the age difference in the relationship of the character to the young woman. So it's trying to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to be an exploitation film. Donen, for whatever reason, decided to make an 80s sex romp. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you get something that is morally murky, intelligently written, has a charismatic lead, has a charismatic secondary lead, has a fairly effective performance by a young woman who got positively raked through the mud after this film came out, thanks to the Razzies, which nominated her for Worst New Star, which just, again, thank God that those fucking awards are gone, because that was an asshole brigade if ever there was one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I just feel really bad for her because she was a model. She got into this thing. She was cast before she realized she had to do the nudity. And it just feels very wrong that she was pulled into this situation as young as she was. And is the nudity gratuitous? Like I said, usually it's background noise, but there are one or two times where you're like, whoa, wait a minute. She didn't look 17, right? You hear that all the time. But I mean,
you don't want that in the final edit of the show.
But the truth of the matter is that girl does not look 17 by any traditional standard. That's the whole idea here. Michael Caine sees this character as a kid. And then all of a sudden, both daughters are approaching their fathers topless on a Brazilian beach. And he's like, can we cover up here, please? Like that. But he's sort of shocked because he's known this girl her whole life. I mean, literally her whole life. He comes to think at some point in here that he has genuine affection for this girl. His
Mhm.
own feelings are getting very confused by
Mhm.
these long-term feelings of care that he's had for her.
Yeah.
And he starts to see her as a young woman, not as a little girl.
Mhm.
The movie tries a bunch of stuff to justify itself. I
Mhm.
think the biggest move that it makes is a final third act turn and reveal when Michael Caine has to tell Victor, hey, it's me. The man that she's talking about isn't this DJ that you want to go and murder. It isn't
Yeah.
the waiter at this restaurant that you just decked. It's me, your best friend, and I'm sorry, hit me. And he doesn't. And he's
Mm.
just kind of walks away, and you're like, what's going on here? You know what's going on? Victor is sleeping with Michael Caine's wife in the film, Karen, Valerie Harper.
I see.
Valerie
Okay.
Harper comes in because she gets called by their daughter, who, by the way, is played by Demi Moore, who is also topless in this film, in case you were interested. And now you've got this crazy, it could only be the French sort of situation where you've got Michael Caine, Matthew, Valerie Harper, Karen fighting because Karen has slept with his best friend, Victor, and Valerie Harper then finding out about Jennifer and getting pissed off at Jennifer.
Right.
Jennifer, distraught, decides that she's going to commit suicide because she can't deal with any of this. Right. This screenplay goes off in this crazy direction, and they still try to play it for laughs because how does she try to commit suicide? She takes an overdose of birth control pills.
What the? Okay.
So
All right.
all they do is pump her stomach, and it's sort of played for laughs a little bit, but it shows that she's still just a kid and kind of an idiot.
The underlying transgression, to me, just sort of nullifies any, like, no matter what is happening in a moment, even if you're like, oh, Michael Caine is making this funny, you're like, yeah, but he slept with a kid. Like, that's the part that I just can't get past. And
But you watched
I'm
Risky
baffled.
Business and it was fine?
No, I mean, I think it's those same kind of questions.
Really?
And again, I think, and I mean, I watched Risky Business 100 years ago and wouldn't tell you 3 things about that movie or that I much liked it. But one of the movies that I keep kind of going back to, if we're going to talk sort of about this thing, although the tone is very different, is I can't help but think of The Graduate. Right, 1967,
Yeah.
where we're treading on some similar territory, but that is a film that takes it a very different approach to that scenario. And I think the thing that I'm having a hard time getting past is that this movie keeps asking us to make light of all of this stuff as if it isn't sinister. I can't think of any other way to color it than
it doesn't come off
sinister.
as sinister at all.
But I think that might be my problem. The fact that it
was
doesn't
the
is
80s.
kind of what my
It's a
problem
good thing
is.
that you weren't raised in the 80s, Mike, or else you'd be traumatized, apparently, because lots of the films were just like this. I mean, that was sort of, it was casually, I mean, look at the fucking Woody Allen movies. It was just accepted, right? What the bullshit that he was doing. There was a very casual sort of sexualization of teens in general at that time.
Yeah.
And I simply think that this was part of it. I think it went over the line more than others do.
Yeah.
And I think it tried to walk a fine line. Why Stanley Donen decided to do the film, I think that was one of your biggest questions.
It was, sure.
This is the guy that did Singin' in the Rain and 7 Brides for 7 Brothers and Funny Face and Damn Yankees. It turns out this wasn't even a paycheck gig for him. He personally optioned the rights to the French film after seeing it with then wife Yvette Mimieux, who was an actress herself, was in The Black Hole in the original Time Machine movie. Blame It on Rio would actually be his last theatrically released feature film, despite Donen only being 60 at the time. He would later direct music videos and television. Most notably, he directed Lionel Richie's Dancing on the Ceiling video.
Oh, I did not know that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I live in a world where Dancing on the Ceiling and Singin' in the Rain were directed by the same guy.
That's why they got him to direct it, because he directed Singing on the Rain. That's why Singing in the Rain.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
What's funny is Blame It on Rio isn't his most poorly received film. That honor belongs to 1980's Saturn III, which stars Farrah Fawcett and Kirk Douglas, which is a truly awful film. Not as interesting to talk about, although the making of that film is very interesting. But this is a more morally suspect and challenging film to talk about.
Yeah.
Time, of course, has not been kind to its reputation. It now exists as sort of a cinematic curiosity or an endurance test, depending on who you are. What I will tell you is the biggest endurance test of this entire affair is the fucking title song by Lisa Roberts and Orrin Waters. It is one of the most grating pieces of pop garbage that's ever been included in any film ever. Would have easily won for our bottom 5 musical numbers.
Might have been the free and easy laughter in the air. Might have been the moonlight on the sea.
Might have been the warm and friendly feeling everywhere. But something wild came over you and me. And we felt our inhibitions melt away in the snow.
Is this movie something that in a post-Me Too world, right?
Yeah.
Is it the kind of thing that, like, we've learned a lot of lessons along the way? We've had a reckoning with how we treated young people in films, young women specifically in films back in the day. But how do you think we can square the sensibilities of the 80s with film audiences of today? Is this something that it could be tolerable now? Is there a way to do this movie in a way that is, it's like, if the girl is 18, is the whole thing like game on, or is it just, I don't know. I'm having a hard time just getting past this thing without just saying like, it was the 80s.
You know, it's emblematic of a brief cultural window where charm and self-awareness and star power were apparently enough to excuse bad behavior. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Could we do it now? Probably some indie filmmaker could, and it would be this edgy kind of thing that comes out, and if it's done smartly enough, maybe. If the girl in the film has enough attitude, if it's like Lady Bird, and she scores a 40-year-old guy that's known her whole life that she's had a crush on, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that anybody would want to do it or see it.
Well, I'm glad that you grappled with this. And I do think part of the interesting thing is that I know that you are able to sort of meet a movie in its time and place, right? Like I would have had a harder time watching this movie for what it is, because I think I would have just been so put off by the premise. And I can appreciate the fact that you're like, yes, I also feel that way, but you were able to sort of check that reality at the door and then try to watch the film for what it was, when it was, and see if you come out feeling any differently about it.
This isn't the first time you've done this to me. You did this to me with kids as well, where I had to watch teenagers fucking. That was actually more upsetting, but it was a drama and it was interesting and it was sort of a slice of life thing. Well, this could have been a real thing. This could have been a real person. It's just a complicated film that is buoyed by a really good star turn.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mike, since tonight's main feature is Blame It on Rio, a movie that feels like a collective sort of career shrug from everyone involved, we decided to go with bottom 5 black sheep. Movies made by serious talent that stick out like an embarrassing family secret. So this list isn't about punching down. It's about legends stepping in it. 5 films that feel less like career highlights and more like awkward gaps in a Wikipedia filmography. Quietly skipped over, rarely defended, and best left unexplained. Mike, what was your approach with this, and what is your number 5?
This bottom 5 was my idea, and I almost immediately had trouble with my own parameters.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, when we think of a black sheep, what are we talking about, right? Is it like a stark drop off in quality? Is it material that hasn't aged well? What's the difference between a black sheep and an outlier? Like The Wiz is pretty far afield from the rest of Sidney Lumet's filmography, but to me, that's more of an outlier than a black sheep. And what came out of those kind of questions for me actually was a few more bottom 5 topics that I might use later on down the road, which was kind of cool. But
yeah,
in the end, I think Black Sheep was the perfect word choice for this list because it means it's the outcast or the misfit or sometimes even a disgrace.
All right.
I'm going to ease into this list at number 5. It's well documented that I don't personally care for Oliver Stone films, which is why it's all the way in the back of my list. But I understand his reputation as a filmmaker. And while he hasn't been especially relevant since the early aughts, I would think maybe W.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear to me that 2004's Alexander with Colin Farrell and Angelina Jolie is a significant black sheep for a generally well-respected filmmaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sure seems to me like the director of Wall Street and JFK making a Swords and Sandals movie is asking for trouble, but it didn't feel that way to Warner Brothers, I guess, because they threw $155 million at this project. And sure, I think Stone has always had a fixation with the costs and consequences of war throughout his career.
For sure.
And who might embody those themes better than Alexander the Great. But this disaster is like 3 hours of listening to your boomer dad explain why he doesn't mind gay people. He just doesn't want them flaunting it in his face. It's such a clumsy, fumbling mess. It ruminates on Alexander's sexuality, but simultaneously sweeps it under the rug at every chance it gets. Nominated for 6 Razzies, take that for what it will, but it has a 15% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Oof. And Scott Tobias of the AV Club called it an excruciating disaster for the ages. And as per usual, Scott Tobias ain't wrong. So when I look at Oliver Stone's filmography, this one just leaps off the page as like a, what are you thinking?
Absolutely. And he had some idea that it wasn't going to turn out right and was desperately trying to mold it into something like by the end of the edit.
Yeah. He has put out 3 different releases of this film, 3 different cuts. And what's interesting is it was a financial failure, but it was an overwhelming success on DVD.
Yeah.
Like record-breaking DVD sales. And I think that has a lot more to do with the year 2004 than anything else. This is when DVD was really, had fully taken over VHS by that point.
Yeah.
And now people had DVD players in their homes and were looking for something with swords and sandals to be able to watch at home. And I think this was the right movie at the right time. Only it's garbage.
Yeah, it's just
and people found
trash.
that out the hard way.
For sure. For sure. It's a nice choice. I'm going in a very different direction with a very different director, but I think someone of similar caliber in the long run. It's definitely a guy that's made a lot more movies, although his career has been much shorter. I'm going with Unsane, the Steven Soderbergh film from 2018.
Really?
Yeah. Soderbergh is one of the most relentlessly confident filmmakers of our modern era. He's an Oscar winner who can pivot from Erin Brockovich to Traffic to Ocean's 11 without breaking a sweat. But that confidence sometimes mutates into, I dare you to stop me experimentation. And Unsane is where that impulse curdled for me. Shot entirely on an iPhone, with Soderbergh also serving as cinematographer and editor under his usual pseudonyms. Unsane was marketed as a kind of guerrilla filmmaking manifesto, proof that the consumer tech could democratize serious cinema. The problem is that the experiment is far more interesting than the movie. Claire Foy, who's fresh off The Crown, plays a woman involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility and possibly stalked by a man who may or may not be real. It should be a paranoia engine. Instead, it's just this clinical kind of endurance test. Soderbergh is so enamored with the iPhone's portability that he wedges the camera into corners, puts it behind lamps, under desks, angles that scream, "Look at what I can do," while adding almost no tension or character. Sean Baker's Tangerine proved great movies could be shot on phones. Unsane proves that tech freedom without narrative obsession just gives you a cheaper way to miss the point.
It's a really interesting pick. And, I think the neat thing is that a few years later in 2022, I think he would correct a lot of those missteps with Kimmy, a movie that he made during the pandemic that I think did have a lot more going on as a narrative film than just, like you said, sort of almost like a filmmaking exercise in Unsane. I liked Kimmy an awful lot more than Unsane. So I'm interested that Steven Soderbergh made the list. This is going to be fun at the end. Is like, who are the filmmakers we decided to pick on, right?
Yeah.
And for me, my number 4, it's back at number 4 because we've discussed the film a fair bit in the past. But if we're doing the list of filmmakers, this would be incomplete if we didn't talk about Francis Ford Coppola's Jack.
Yeah.
My guy directed Apocalypse Now and the Godfather movies, so Robin Williams as an enormous dying child is about as carved in granite as a Black Sheep selection gets. It's not any more complicated than that for me. It is just, this might be the blackest of Black Sheep, but I put it at number 4 because we've talked about this for a whole bunch of different reasons in the past.
Yeah.
But I think it must be on this list.
It is. He's had such a up and down career, right? Even this latest film, the Megalopolis film, it's not a black sheep because it's something that he 100% owns.
Yeah, you could watch Unsane and give somebody 5 guesses who made the movie, and you'd probably have a handful of people tell you like, "Oh, that looks like Soderbergh," no doubt. You could give somebody ages to try and guess who made Jack.
Oh, absolutely,
and they would never guess.
No.
Francis
I agree
Ford
with
Coppola.
you.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone would be able to guess Soderbergh out of Unsane because of the way how flat it is. Doesn't feel like his movies. So my number 4 is a film that's more in keeping, I feel, with your approach. It's Sphere by Barry Levinson.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, all of these movies, I believe I saw in the theater, to my great disappointment. So on paper, Sphere is unbeatable because it's adapted from a techno thriller by Michael Crichton. It stars Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, and Samuel L. Jackson. And it's directed by Barry Levinson, who was fresh off of prestige landmarks like Rain Man and Good Morning Vietnam.
Right.
And for anybody who worships the abyss the way I do, this felt like destiny.
Yeah.
But instead, Sphere is this masterclass in how to suffocate mystery. Levinson drains the premise of momentum. He stages a story as an endless underwater philosophy seminar, punctuated by people calmly explaining the plot to each other. The central idea that the sphere manifests subconscious spheres could have been primal and terrifying. Oh, I don't know, a little like Soderbergh's tape on the Tarkovsky Solaris. That was a good, right?
Yeah.
Instead, with Sphere, it's delivered like a group therapy exercise. The production was famously troubled. It had multiple rewrites, tonal confusion. The film limped to a disappointing box office, which was like $73 million worldwide on a reported $80 million budget. And it was met largely with negative reviews. My favorite thing about the film, Elliot Goldenthal's massive operatic score, which is normally like a cheat code for grandeur, it only emphasizes how little suspense the film earns. So, look, Levinson's made some other misfires, The Bay being a particularly grim one. But Sphere remains the ultimate, how did this go so wrong entry on his resume. So that's why it made it on my list at number 4.
Jay, we have made almost 80 episodes of this show.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I have ever heard you more absolutely dead to rights describe a film than you just did.
Right? The seminar.
Like, everything you said was a bullseye. That when you're ready to like write your thesis on a film, this is the one, man. Like, you are now, as far as I'm concerned, the world's foremost expert in the sphere. You understand this movie on like a molecular level and have articulated it flawlessly.
I still own the Goldenthal score.
Of course you do. So it was only fair for me to look at my favorite directors and be honest that one of these things is not like the other. And so at my number 3, the Coen brothers have made some incredible films and worked in so many different genres.
For sure.
Just imagine the artistry and the skill it takes to make films as varied as Raising Arizona and No Country for Old Men.
Right.
And while they have cranked out some absolute all-timers like Fargo and The Big Lebowski, there's a pretty big head scratcher in there. And looking at the filmography begs the question, what the hell was The Lady Killers all about?
Yeah.
A remake of the 1955 English film starring Alec Guinness and Peter Sellers, but for some reason set in modern Mississippi and with Tom Hanks in the Guinness role. And Hanks' performance is so cartoonishly bizarre that it kind of defies explanation.
Oh, my. This was a severe setback. I'm distraught. I'm more than distraught. I am devastated. I'm beside myself. I'm at a positive loss for words. You still talking okay, though?
It's like a Looney Tunes Southern Gothic crime caper. And if that sounds incomprehensible, it's because it is. It's also kind of low-key racist, I think. And I do think that you could make an argument that it's more of an outlier, but I'd say they already have a few outliers in their filmography, right? Namely, like I would say The Hudsucker Proxy and Intolerable Cruelty, a movie that's not great, but I wouldn't call a black sheep. And to my mind, this is a real misfit of a film. It's messy and embarrassing in a way that a black sheep member of the family can be, and held up against their otherwise sterling filmography, The Lady Killers is a glaring black sheep of a movie. And that's why it's my number 3.
Excellent choice, for sure. Mine may not be a filmmaker that was always at the top of his game. That's the thing. But I will say this. When he was at the top of his game, almost no one was higher up than Harold Ramis. Despite having helped define modern American comedy and eventually landing on the Mount Rushmore with Groundhog Day, what the fuck was Club Paradise?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
It's aggressively unfunny. It's a Caribbean farce that stars Robin Williams as a burned out Chicago firefighter who relocates to a tropical island to help reggae legend Jimmy Cliff save a failing resort. Do I need to say any of that again? Robin Williams as a Chicago firefighter helping Jimmy Cliff save a failing resort. Oh, okay, that's not weird enough. Peter O'Toole and Rick Moranis also appear, which just kind of just deepens the tragedy because no one is funny here.
Yeah.
Shot during Williams' peak cocaine and chaos era, the production reportedly struggled to harness his improvisational energy, resulting in a performance that's oddly muted and uncharismatic. The movie vanished almost immediately after it was released. Ramis would go on to make other sort of uneven late career choices like Year One. But I mean, he also made Analyze This, right? So there were ups and downs for the guy. But what the hell with Club Paradise? It stands apart as the one where the comic soul just simply never showed up. And it's a vacation movie so lifeless it feels jet lagged. That is my number 3.
Yeah, I think the big thing here, you referenced sort of his whole body of work, because if I look strictly at just the films that he directed, I might not say that it's fair to single one out as a black sheep because of things like Year One and Bedazzled and fucking Somehow Stewart Saves His Family.
Oh, but I loved Bedazzled.
But when you, of course you did. I wonder what 2 things you loved the most about it. But when you take a look at his writing and his acting and all of that kind of stuff and look at him on the whole, yeah, I do think this jumps out a lot more as a real misstep.
He fucking wrote Ghostbusters, right? He's all over legendary comedy films and just, come on.
Very cheerful. My parents didn't believe in toys.
You mean you never even had a slinky?
We had part of a slinky. but I straightened it.
On our show, we tend not to discuss foreign films all that often.
It's true.
That's not by design. It's just that American cinema gives us enough fodder that we can keep things in our own backyard most of the time, and we're really not that fancy. But here's where we can talk briefly, and with almost no level of detail, I insist, about my number 2, Pier Paolo Pasolini's 1975 Salò, or The 120 Days of Sodom. This film is a nuclear bomb of horrors.
Yeah.
It's the kind of movie we've agreed never to assign each other on this show. There are a handful of films that we decided this is not what we're about, right?
Somehow Necromantic didn't make it on that
list.
Oh
boy, I really missed an opportunity with that, didn't I? But this is unbelievably, this is just leaps and bounds worse than that. It's full of torture and sexual violence. And I'll be honest, I never have and never will watch it in its entirety, but that's kind of my point. Pasolini self-immolated his reputation with this film. What happened was the filmmaker was just furious the way audiences digested his Trilogy of Life series. They looked at it as kind of these sexy movies for the bourgeoisie, and he was quoted as saying, "I repudiate the Trilogy of Life, not because the films are bad, but because they've been absorbed by the new power, the consumerist culture."
Wow.
And so he lashed out with Salò as this angry corrective. Like, you want to see what power really does to human bodies? Well, here you go. Before Salò, he was known as kind of a moral intellectual. He made austere, empathetic films in his early career. And then his Trilogy of Life series, which were a little erotic, but not sleazy.
Wow.
And sadly, Pasolini was beaten to death, probably by fascists, before this film was released. And his Black Sheep film became the thing that he's probably best known for. And I think that's a little bit sad. But with that, I think I will put Salò away forever and never look at it again. Although the more I dug into the movie, as just like horrifying and mean as it is hard in 2026 not to think about what powerful fascists do to human bodies, and that maybe these are horrors we need to look at. Now, Salò takes that idea to its astronomical furthest point. And so I would never tell anybody to actually watch this film. But I think what I came away from after thinking about this is this his Black Sheep? Sure. Did the man maybe have a real good goddamn point? Yeah, he might have.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a bigger point. Good pick. Interesting pick, because it is what defines the guy's career more, I think, than anything else. So
big time.
A kind of neat choice to make the Black Sheep the thing that he's most remembered for. Interesting. This is a neat take on it. Only you would do that. That's for sure. My number 2, man, William Friedkin is not just a great director.
Yeah.
He's a foundational one. The French Connection, Sorcerer, and The Exorcist form almost a holy trinity of American cinema. So when Friedkin returned to horror at the dawn of the 90s with The Guardian, expectations were sky fucking high.
All right.
But what we got, instead of Regan, instead of Popeye Doyle, instead of the amazing bridge sequence in Sorcerer, we got an evil tree baby snatching fairy tale starring Jenny Seagrove as a nanny who might as well be Satan's Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
It's adapted from a Ramsey Campbell novel, and the film is conceptually odd, but executionally inert. It's short on dread, it's long on rubbery special effects, and it has a baffling tone. Friedkin later dismissed the film outright, blaming studio interference and rush production. The critics weren't impressed, audiences stayed away, and the movie evaporated almost instantly. Coming from a man who redefined cinematic terror, The Guardian feels like watching Picasso doodle with crayons.
Wow. You know, I've never seen The Guardian, and I did think about Friedkin. I was wondering if you were going to talk about Jade.
I wasn't as offended by Jade on his resume as I was The Guardian.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
My number one is from the director of Last House on the Left. And that's not the movie I'm picking.
Yeah.
Wes Craven.
He's such a weird career.
He is a legendary horror director, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Serpent and the Rainbow,
Oh,
Scream.
here we go.
I love Wes Craven. I love Wes Craven. But before he gave us Freddy Krueger, he got his start in a very different filmmaking lane, because in 1975, he directed a porno film called The Fireworks Woman. Yep. Wes Craven directed porn. The movie's about a girl who is in love with her brother, who is studying to be a priest. And then they have sex a lot because this is an actual pornographic film. With that being the case, it was just a deadlock at number one for me. I actually flirted a little bit with Sylvester Stallone, who also starred in some adult films, but I was keeping it strictly to directors. But this was the one for me because I love Wes so much. And because he has what you might think of as a black sheep with Last House on the Left. For there to be something else that is just like so far out there.
I thought for sure you were going to talk about Music from the Heart.
Yeah.
Because what?
That to me would be an outlier, though.
Oh, yeah, because it wasn't poorly received. So,
no, not really. It's weird that it's a Craven film for sure. And that's kind of something I was thinking about, like I said off the top, is that this did lead me to some other top 5 categories. I do think we could talk about outliers at another time, and it could be a very distinct list from this. Yes. But if we're talking about black sheep, well, then, yeah, you directed a porno as a guy named Abe Snake, Wes. And so I think that's going to be my number one.
That's a really good one. The purest definition of a black sheep. Interestingly, my number one is a black sheep, probably for everybody involved except for the filmmaker, who still thinks it's one of his very best films and wants to see it re-released in a 4-hour cut with the lead actor overdubbed.
Oh.
1492, Conquest of Paradise. Ridley Scott.
Oh.
Architect of Alien and Blade Runner and Thelma and Louise, turned his visual gifts toward Christopher Columbus, casting Gerard Depardieu in a sprawling, prestige bait epic timed for the 500th anniversary of the voyage. The result was this visually sumptuous, narratively inert, and astonishingly dull movie. It's shot like a perfume commercial stretched to feature length. And it mistakes scale for drama and pageantry for insight. Vangelis delivers a lush, way overqualified score that's arguably the movie's most enduring legacy. Critics were lukewarm at best, right? Audiences just pretty much rejected it outright. It lost tens of millions of dollars. And time has been brutally unkind because his historic reassessment has pretty much reframed Columbus as a symbol of colonial brutality rather than heroic exploration. 1492 now plays less like a flawed epic and more like an ideological fossil.
Yeah.
It's so wrong-headed to have any note of sympathy for Columbus at this point in our history.
Yeah.
Oh my God, if you've made a movie where he was a hero, that should be your black sheep.
Yeah, right.
Now, granted, he's made other misfires.
Yeah.
But Conquest of Paradise remains the one where his gifts are completely undeniable and thoroughly misapplied. So there you go. My number one, 1492. Hated the shit out of the movie when I saw it in the theater.
A good example of something I said kind of at the beginning is like a black sheep is something that maybe has aged poorly. Imagine making a black sheep that not only aged poorly, but continues to get worse as time. Like it's actively aging poorly right now. Like as we speak, it's getting worse.
So true.
This was a fun list to put together for me. I had a good time with it. I would really love to hear from our audience on this one because I think everybody kind of has a pet black sheep. You know what I mean? There's the one
Sure.
that like, it just gets under everybody's skin and it's the one they get angry about, right? Please drop us a line, send us a voicemail, put it in a fortune cookie. I'll probably get to it eventually. I want to know what it is. So if you have one, let us know and we'd love to play it on the show.
Mike, we've been deploying Kick 2 Pick 2 as a way to memorialize talent that has passed away. And we recently lost somebody truly luminescent. And that was Catherine O'Hara, who passed away on January 30th after a brief illness at age 71. I think that Catherine O'Hara wasn't just a brilliant comedic actor. She was one of those rare performers whose presence could define an entire film or series that she was in. And she had a career that spanned 5 decades. She worked in television and in film and in voice acting. And she always lent her performances with heartfelt humanity, but also this kind of razor sharp comic precision. That always made her characters feel vivid and alive.
Yeah.
I remember one of her last roles was, interestingly, on season 2 of The Last of Us in a fairly small role. And when she showed up on screen, I did the same thing that I always do when I see Catherine O'Hara. I smile and go, yes!
Yeah, right.
We won't have any of that anymore, sadly.
Yeah.
And that breaks me up. But the best way we know how to honor someone is to, for some reason, take 4 of their films and keep 2 of them. Home Alone, After Hours, Beetlejuice.
And if I could interject on the 4th one.
Yes.
3 of these films for me could be just the movies that she made with Christopher Guest. Mighty Wind, Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman. Those 3 alone, it's got to be one of those films. So we're almost like doing pick 2 and pick 2 here. I mean, which one of those makes it into the 4th spot?
I thought it would be Best in Show.
I think so too.
She was both hilarious and heartbreakingly real in that film.
And just maybe the culmination of decades of comedic work with Eugene Levy.
Oh, yeah. The SCTV.
They kept sharpening that edge finer and finer and finer with every passing
all
year.
The way through Schitt's Creek.
A comedic duo that I don't think gets thought of often enough for what they really were for that amount of time.
And, one thing that I did consider as well was, of course, her voice work for The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, Sally, right?
Sally. Yeah. I mean, good heavens. But I had to see her face.
Yes.
That was the thing for me.
Yep.
There was something about her wide-eyedness that she could manipulate either to be erratic or to be loving, and you never knew which way you were going to go with it.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that necessarily she did. She would change hairstyles. She would change looks. She would change completely different registers from movie to movie because her range was so sophisticated.
5, 8, 6, 2.
Don't.
9, 3, 8, 0.
Now I have forgotten the number. What is wrong with you? Are you all right? I have had a terrible, terrible night. Do you understand?
I'm just trying to entertain you.
After Hours is a film that I don't hold quite as closely as I do the other 3. It's a great performance. It's not quite as iconic for me as the others. So that might be the one.
The only reason it might not make it for me is because Terry Garr is also doing something weird and crazy in that film. So the 2 of them become a strange dyad.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time agreeing with you here, but considering what else is on the table, I think I too have to kick it. I hate this. That is my favorite Scorsese film by a long mile.
I know it is. I
So,
know. And for me, then, being left with Home Alone, Beetlejuice, and Best in Show, I don't know what to do, because what I love about Home Alone is that this is a film that shows her range, right?
yes, for sure.
Beetlejuice is so unhinged in its own way, and that's such a showy performance where she's so good in the role.
Lip syncing Deo.
Right.
Just the movement that she has during that scene.
Yep.
I don't know, Mike. I can't cut Beetlejuice. Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't do it.
I don't know that I can either. But Best in Show represents something that I think is so important to me. Here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep as much Catherine O'Hara around as we possibly can. I think that I would take Best in Show and Home Alone.
Oof.
Because I know that you're going to keep Beetlejuice.
And I'll just keep Beetlejuice in After Hours, and you can come over my house.
Yeah.
And I'll go over your house, and we can watch.
And you know what? Maybe that's not necessarily in the spirit of this exercise, but there was something about her that kind of touched your heart in a different way that made her really special. And one of the things that I often find trite is when we lose somebody, kind of that big, I'm devastated, this one hurts, all of that kind of thing feels a little performative and empty a lot of the time.
For sure.
But with Catherine O'Hara, she was Kevin's mom. She was kind of all our moms, right? And so for me, I think that I'm going to allow it under these circumstances and game the system a little bit in a way that lets us keep all of these films, even if that's not the point of Pick Two, Kick Two. God damn it, she just made us feel good in a way that most people don't.
Mike, the Oscar nominations for 2026 were just announced.
Yeah.
And in a few weeks, on March 15th, the Academy will once again do what it does best. Hand out gold statues and trust that time will sort out whether or not they made the right calls. That brings us to 2005. That year, the Academy went all in on a film from Paul Haggis, awarding it Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay. Over time, this film's reputation hasn't just cooled, it's been debated, reassessed, and occasionally side-eyed. And watching it now, in a much messier, much less patient cultural moment, raises a pretty simple question. Did the Academy get it wrong? Or are we being unfair to a movie that was trying earnestly, if awkwardly, to say something meaningful? Mike, your next assignment is Crash.
If I had to take a side, I would say that culturally, we have settled on this as being one of the worst Best Picture winners that we've had. I think that's where most people land on this thing.
Yeah.
And it was a movie I was looking forward to never seeing again, especially in a year when almost for the first time in memory, after the Academy announced its Best Picture nominees, almost everybody collectively went, maybe the Academy is finally getting its head out of its ass and coming around and all that kind of stuff. And so in that moment when I've been totally thrilled at films like Sinners and One Battle After Another, you are just hurling me back to this moment for this movie because I can't have nice things. That's the point of the show. So good on you, Jason. It's the right movie at the right time.
Since this movie leans so heavily on big ideas and broad strokes and characters who sometimes feel like they wandered in from a sociology textbook, our bottom 5 for this episode will, of course, be bottom 5 stereotypes.
Oh, bottom 5 stereotypes. There's about 1 million ways that thing can sprawl out, right?
That's why we have it. It's nice and vague.
I'm here for it, Jay. So fuck you, Santo.
Yes.
But to our beloved listeners, I will say no such thing. What I will say is I hope they will all come back and join us next time when I will review Paul Haggis's Crash and we'll do our bottom 5 stereotypes. But until then, We have been your hosts. I am Mike.
And I am Jay.
And we'll see you next time.
Karate, stalno mislim na te, hoću znat sve kate, vježbat ću sate i sate. Karate, vježbat ću dok zadnji mi kjaj zostane izađe.
And not David Cronenberg's film. No sex and cars for you, pal.
Well, you don't know how I'm going to watch the movie. Let's not say there's no sex and cars. It's